Your Creative Push, episode 74.
Failing and success is exactly the same thing as long as you learn from it.
Welcome to Your Creative Push, the podcast that pushes you to pursue your creative passions. I'm your host, Youngman Brown, and my guest today is Pierre Antoine Moelo, aka Péah. Pierre is a concept artist born in Paris and currently living in Montreal, Canada. He worked in the video game industry for 5 years before switching to animation. After 8 years in the industry as a concept artist, his goal is to explore and propose a wide range of possibility in creating universes. Pierre, thank you, first of all, for coming on the show, and I was wondering if maybe you could tell me what I missed in that intro and give us a peek into your personal life?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think you got mostly everything. Right now, I'm splitting my time between day work at animation studio and personal time on a book project. Actually, I released two personal books in the previous year, and one more exciting project I've got right now is that I will be teaching at a school this summer.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about your books that you put out?
Yeah, I released two books from now. The first one is called Itinéraire de voyage. It's in French. It's like a philosophical story, kind of contemplative story. And the other one is called Where the Lines Meet. It's more of a art book, I would say.
You did those like completely on your own?
Exactly. It's self-published actually, so I did through the whole process myself.
Very cool. What was that like? Because I know how hard it can be, especially a lot of people listening who have full-time gigs, full-time jobs, to find the time and to find the kind of the inspiration and motivation to put out their own personal stuff. So can you tell me a little bit about that process and how you were able to stay motivated to do that?
Sure. I mean, the key for personal projects is very to find the something you really love to do. Like I'm working as a full-time concept artist, so I'm drawing every day, But to get the energy to work on my own, I've got to work on very different things that bring me more joy or interest me a bit more than other work I do for a living. So about the books, it was finding some subject I really want to develop over the month and will not get bored to develop over the month too. So when you find these specific things you really love and can get stick to for a month, you're good to go. So yeah, for the first book, it was very something very close to my heart project, very personal thing. So this is why I found the motivation to do it from start to finish. And I mean, working on books is very different from working on an illustration because it's a long process. There's a lot of editing to do at the end, so it's very energy consuming. So yeah, you have to be sure that the project is strong enough to let you have enough energy to finish it.
It's really important to find something, like you said, that you love, that if you are going to be spending all your free time in, you really have to love it, because otherwise you just won't be able to find the motivation to keep doing it.
Exactly. And the most difficult part is to finish the project, not to start it. So I think this is the part to put the accent on. Starting something is good, but finishing it is better and harder too, I would say.
Absolutely. And there's nothing better than, like you said, finishing the project and having that kind of tangible thing that you can hold in your hands and say, all right, this is done. That's the best feeling.
Exactly. Yeah.
Going along with that, can you tell me a little bit about Smokey Town too? Because I was watching the trailer for that, and it looks beautiful, man.
Cool. Thank you. Smokey Town is a kind of a short movie project I started last year. It started with this little universe I created for myself with kind of weird creatures with masks and living in small villages and doing their things. So it's starting into building this universe, and from that I thought, oh, I would love to give life to this, do some kind of animation and see how this whole universe can move and exist and bring life to this. So I started to learn After Effects and to see how I can animate those things. Actually, it turned out to be very difficult. I'm not an animator, so I struggled a lot. And I was blessed to be contacted by this animator, Daniela Fischer. She's from Brazil, and she told me, "Hey, I saw your work, and I'm interested into animated some of it, if you don't mind." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, please do." And she did a first take on the thing I was trying to animate, and it turned out to be absolutely amazing. I was just blown away by the quality of it and how it brings so much life to a still image, you know? And I thought, oh, there's something to do with that. And I've got this story written somewhere, and it started to develop as soon as I see the characters moving. And I asked her if she was willing to work on some more shots for me. And she did. And it ended up with this little piece of animation you can find on the internet. And right now I'm trying to develop the rest, but yeah, it's a long process.
Yeah, for sure. And I can totally relate because I use After Effects for my music videos that I make. But all I do in my music videos is manipulate text. Like I have barely any actual images or video elements. So I can completely understand how difficult it is, and especially to teach yourself something. But those resources are there if you want to learn it. But I love how if you're if it's not for you, you can collaborate with people and find other people on the internet. How exactly did you connect? She just kind of was a fan of your work and wondered if you needed help.
It's a very special thing. I think sometimes things are in the perfect timing at the perfect moment, and
Absolutely, yeah.
I think with Daniela it was something like that. She was following my work for a couple of months, or I don't know, maybe years, I don't know. And she contacted me because I was struggling with the animation. So because I was willing to try to teach myself this new thing, despite of I'm not an animator. So it's like you push a button, it's not working, but it works in another way because somebody came out or something came out to help you in an unexpected way. So yeah, I didn't knew Daniela before. She arrived out of nowhere, contacted me for this. And I've got two persons working on this project too, on the sound design and music, and it's Julien Maillard and Thibault Libert. And they were co-workers with me who did completely different jobs but have other talent, and they offered me to help me on this.
Very cool. And yeah, going along with what you're saying, that it really does feel like people kind of just come out of nowhere exactly at the right time. It's happened for me, for guests on the podcast, and just in life. But that never happens unless you put yourself out there too. First of all, put your work out there, and second of all, be honest about maybe what you're struggling with or what what works for you, what doesn't work for you. If you have that like dialogue and have it open, that's when other people can kind of latch on to that and reach out to you as well.
Exactly. And something that can appear to a failure, like me trying to animate the characters at first, can end up into a completely different things that you didn't expect it. I didn't expect it to do this whole trailer at first. I thought it would be just one of a time animation that I would do myself. And yeah, it got way, way bigger than I expected. And I'm so grateful for that.
Very cool. I'm totally looking forward to seeing where it goes, man.
Yeah, same thing.
So I was wondering what does it mean to you to like kind of create a universe? Have you always had that kind of a grand scale in your imagination? Where did that kind of come from, and how do you keep that?
I think it started with the will to tell stories. Maybe a little of background can help on that.
I love it.
Cool. I was born in a city called Rosny-sous-Bois in France, and my grandparents have this house in Brittany. It's a very small town called Saint-Quay-Portrieux. It's close to the sea. You can hear a seagull. It was a nice little house, and close to this house were living a famous French comic illustrator named Jean-Claude Fournier. He used to work with Franquin, and a very famous comic artist. And when I was a kid, I was allowed to go to his studio and see him working. And it was very generous to me because he showed me the comic pages when he was doing them. And I don't know, I was maybe 6 or 8 years old, and it was fascinating to see him creating those characters and this background out of nowhere from pen and ink. And this is where I started to have the will to draw and the dream to become myself an illustrator, to create comics. This was my first love with illustration. So yeah, again, this love for comics and storytelling and creating, small universe and characters, and this is where it came from. And along the years, I read a lot of French comics, and I thought there's a lot to tell and to give to people through stories. So I didn't ended up as a comic artist, but I concept artist, which is kind of the same thing. So except it's more about illustration than dialogue and stuff like that. But you can tell stories in still illustration in one picture.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when it's such a huge kind of canvas, so to speak. What are some of the challenges that come with creating such large scale kind of ideas?
For animation or video games, it's very collaborative work. You're not alone to doing all of that, which is very important and very cool because you're not overwhelmed by the task, For animation, you're working with a director who gives you a script and give you his ideas. So it's a kind of a sharing experience that it tells you what you've got in mind. And as long as you're reading the script or having this discussion, you begin to have this image in your head, like, oh, a castle at this place. And it's building up. And after that, it's go through a big sketching process, like sketching a lot of idea, and out of there you take the best one and develop it. So it's a very constructive process. What I can say is like it has to be constructed to be efficient in some way.
Are there any things that kind of hold you back on a daily basis from creating your creative work, and how do you kind of get through them?
I would say I've got a couple of tricks to help me focus on my personal work.
Mm-hmm.
When I get back from work, I have to find this energy to work on my personal project. And one of them is that trying to do a bit each day, like setting a timer for 5 minutes, a real timer, that rings after 5 minutes. And most of the time I can go after the timer, 5 minutes is not enough to complete a drawing. So I will go farther and draw maybe an hour, 2 hours. But sometimes I just do 5 minutes because I'm too exhausted or I've got other things to do. But having this 5 minutes safe per day helped me to have a continuity in my personal practice and personal drawing practice. So that can be a nice trick, I would say.
And, people would maybe scoff at that and say, oh, what's 5 minutes a day going to do? But 5 minutes a day can be so much, because it's doing something every day. If you make sure you do a minimum of 5 minutes every day, it makes it also not seem like such a gigantic task of, sitting down for an hour or two. If you're saying, oh, I'm just going to do 5 minutes and we'll see how long I can go after that, it takes the pressure off of you because you're just like, all right, I just have to do 5 minutes and then we'll see what's going to happen. Instead of, oh, I'm going to sit down and complete 3 chapters of my book or paint this entire picture or work on this entire animation or whatever it may be. It just takes the pressure off of you, It's being a little bit more gentle. So I love that idea.
Exactly. It's very freeing. And the trick is that 5 minutes is definitely not enough to complete anything. So
right.
If you want to go longer, and you will most of the time, it's easy. It's just a starter, a way to start in a less overwhelming way, but it can be sometimes.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's just about doing it every single day, just a little bit. It makes it a practice. It makes it a part of your life. And even if it's just 5 minutes a day and you're writing or you're, taking pictures or you're painting, you can call yourself that. You can call yourself a writer or a painter, a photographer or whatever it is, because you're actually doing it. And it's really all it takes. You don't have to be a good writer, a good photographer, or a good painter or whatever it may be. You just have to be doing it every single day. And that's all it takes.
Exactly. And I hear a lot of people on your podcast saying that, but it's true. It's like a sport. You have to practice it on a daily basis to get better and to get used to it and to progress. So yeah, it's kind of a training. Actually, I really see drawing and painting as a sport because it's on the daily practice that you see big changes. So it's important to keep this continuity in the practice.
I love it. So go and buy an egg timer, everybody, and just set it for 5 minutes every day.
Yeah, why not?
Love
Why
it.
not?
I was wondering, do you have like a worst moment creatively, like a time where you just really couldn't get the work done or something, bad happened and you were able to get through it?
Yeah, actually, I did. But the funny thing is that the worst moment was also the best moment
Love
in
it.
some
Yeah.
way. Yeah, a couple of years ago, actually, I've been pretty sick. I got a very rare disease, I would say, that affected my right lung. So,
I'm sorry.
no, that don't be. You will get through it, and you will not be for me after that. Um, so it was very threatening, very difficult, and life-threatening, actually. So at this time, I was working on the first book, Itinéraire de voyage, and there were two options, the first option was to be stuck into frighten all the time and cry and not be able to move on with my life. And the other option was acceptance and trying to be most of it. And I knew when I heard the diagnostic of this that I will have to go through a big surgery, very kind of dangerous surgery. So uh, I felt like, okay, I've got to make a choice here of what I want to do with my time and life and what bring me joy, because it's when you're in front of this kind of situation, it's all about what it's important. And what was important at the time was time with my friends, family, and this book, Itinéraire de Voyage. It was the important thing for me to do. And the love of drawing, it gave me some kind of strength and confidence, actually, because I knew at some point, I didn't know actually what will going on through the surgery and what will end up from that, of if anything will end up, So
Mm-hmm.
I thought, let's make the most of everything. Let's make the most of my time to draw. Let's enjoying a lot, as much as possible. Let's enjoying the time with my friends and everything. So this very frightening situation turned out into a very freeing situation because I've got nothing to do. So let's enjoy drawing. So it was a very creative moment, actually, the most creative moment, because I was not afraid of failing or afraid of what people might say of my drawing or if I can do this job or get to this company or all these things doesn't matter anymore because I didn't knew what will go on with me. So I drew like crazy and enjoy a lot and discover actually that finding the subject you love is the most important thing. And I found things at this very particular time of my life. And fortunately, everything ended up very fine for me. It was this is crazy how it happened. The surgery was a huge success. It ended up way better than what was diagnostic for me at the time, and today I'm free from
Yeah.
that.
Good. Good.
But everything connects in the most perfect way, I think, because of this mindset, a positive mindset and being confident with what's will going on. So I learned from this episode to be confident with my art and not to worry too much about things that doesn't matter that much, because what matters is what you love, and this is the only thing to be focused on.
Well, first of all, I'm so glad that everything did work out and that you're still with us and kicking. I love it. Would you say that that feeling that you got has kept through now? Like you still have that and you're still kind of have the same motivation that you did during the episode?
Exactly. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the kind of energy I try to get back to when I need to focus on some work. And actually, it was very freeing, because things that don't work for me, I will not stick to it. You know, if I'm in a shitty situation, let's say a shitty job or shitty whatever, you know, I'll know that I don't want to waste my time into that, because it's very precious. So if the job I loved, I don't love it anymore, let's find something else. If this illustration I'm making, I'm not sure about it, let's do another one. Sticking to things you love and you take fun from, it's beginning to be important for me at this time.
Absolutely. That's what life is all about. It's about spending that limited time that you have doing something that you love. And it's a shame that for a lot of people it does take a big kind of life event like what happened to you to kind of really kick your butt right into the right mindset. But that's kind of the idea of the podcast is to hopefully motivate people and to make them understand that it is important to spend your time doing something that you love. Yes, you have daily responsibilities, and yes, you have jobs and stuff like that, but it's finding the time to be with your calling and see where that goes.
Exactly. And the thing is that it was a bad moment, but I don't perceive it at a bad moment. It was what I needed at the time to get to where am I today, you know? And I think it's the same with all the thing about art, because sometimes you fail into something, but it's not really failing, because you learn something from it. So failing and success is exactly the same thing, as long as you learn from it. It's just like from what we perceive as failure, we then see the gain at the moment. Something took time. So yeah, when I struggle with my art, I see it as a way to learn more than a failure. So something positive.
Absolutely. The more you learn, the more information you get, and the more likely you are to succeed the next time in a bigger way.
Exactly.
Kind of going along with that, what does art and creativity bring to your life?
I think it's a way of exploring myself and the world somehow. I don't know how to explain, but um, there's a range of things you can get through of art. It can be very cerebral when you're very trying to achieve something specific and you have a lot of research on concentration, and you can get to a very technical place that it's interesting, but you can get to a very intuitive place too, you know, where technique doesn't matter and you're just putting out some feelings, ideas, and maybe events that happen to you. And it's a very liberating things to do. And I think there's a lot to get through art, actually. One of the things I love about being a concept artist is that I have to do a lot of research on the movies I'm working on or video games I'm working on. Like I'm working on let's say a movie on Paris at a certain area of time. I've got to search about all this historical stuff. So you learn a lot from that. And when I did my book Itinéraire de Voyage, it was very intuitive. There was no research, there was no redraw of my drawing, so it was very spontaneous. So yeah, to sum up, what I like about art is that you can go through all of that place with a pencil. That's awesome.
That is awesome. It's being able to kind of create your own universes, like you said, and make your universe maybe a little bit bigger. Pierre, it is time for our final push. And this is where I ask you to kind of reach through the microphone and grab the shoulder of one of the listeners that you've already inspired today and use your best advice and push them into action.
Yeah, one of the things is that perfect timing does not exist. There's not a perfect timing for doing a book or doing a painting or creating maybe a beautiful piece of music, you have to start now. There will not ever be a perfect timing to start. There will always be something that distracts you from doing it. So why not doing it straight away? I mean, yeah, go for it, do it, and start with 5 minutes a day, and you will see where it gets from there. 5 minutes is something that I think everybody can afford to spend time on, and if you try that, it will be an amazing journey, I'm sure.
Great advice, and Pierre, I really appreciate you coming on the show today and for giving us that push.
Yeah, thank you. That was a pleasure.
And you can find Pierre on his website. That is www.peah-art.com. That's peah-art.com. And on Facebook, he is Péah Draw. And on Tumblr, he is Péah Art. Pierre, thank you again so much.
Thanks a lot.
So cool. Thank you so much, Pierre, for coming on the show. You know, it's so important to figure out what is important to you in your life. And it's a shame, like we were saying, that sometimes it takes something like an illness or a near-death experience or a death in your family or some kind of other loss or something else tragic to happen to you for you to realize what is important and what you do want to be spending your limited time on this earth doing. And I don't want something bad to happen to you to figure that out. So really try to take what you're hearing in this podcast and, you know, the situations that the artists and creative people that come on find themselves in that help to change them, and use that as a catalyst to do what's important in your life and to spend all of your time doing it, even if it's only 5 minutes a day, like Pierre said. It's such a valuable, trick to set that egg timer and just work 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day. Just tell yourself that no matter what, you're going to spend that small amount of time every single day. Go into a room, shut the door, only bring in whatever materials you need, plus a timer, set it, and you can't leave until you've done it. Whatever amount of time that you want to do per day, do it. And that's the minimum that you have to spend. We've talked about it on the show before. It's spending that little bit of time every single day, a little bit of energy every single day into your creative passion will change the rest of your day, because you have kind of checked that off. You've put a piece of yourself into the thing that you care the most about, and your entire life will be better because of it. Just a real quick second to thank some of you who left a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Kimberly Falker said, Youngman does such a great job of bringing in a ton of variety to help those of us who find ourselves stuck in our creativity. Such inspiring guests, and I love the show. Pod9955 said, great content, especially for anyone looking for that motivation to make the final leap in their creative endeavors. A. Schwartz said, as a life purpose coach, I often work with artists who are looking for inspiration and striving to understand how art fits into the big picture of their lives. Your podcast and the stories you share couldn't be more important for someone looking at those topics for themselves. Thanks for highlighting such an important topic, and cheers to creativity and the creative process. Duff Ash said, interesting guests and a great concept to push us to get out there and live a big life. And Ayers53 said, I thought I didn't have a creative bone in my body, but this show shed some new light. Inspirational for sure, and super helpful to see I have the same challenges that all other creatives have. So thank you so much for those 5-star ratings and reviews on iTunes. That is the reason why this show has reached so many new ears and been able to inspire other people. If you haven't left us a rating and review yet, but you would like to, I would be so appreciative of it because it really does help us out. And if you don't use iTunes on the regular and you need a little bit of help figuring out how to do it, you can head to yourcreativepush.com/review to get some instructions on how to easily do it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for doing your art. I hope that you were motivated today and this week to get your work done. If you need the push again, we will be here for you next week with some great new episodes. Set that timer for 5 minutes every day if you can, and get that work done. Have a great weekend, and I will catch you on Monday. Bye.